Morning guys, in this video I'm going to take you through each and every single one of the 13 G-Shock watches that I own and give them an honest review, short bit of feedback, and explain to you which ones I use in specific situations. I hope you enjoy. So, as these short clips will show, before we get into the detail, I do wear these watches, these G-Shocks, each and every day. I'm a true believer that there is a G-Shock for every situation and scenario, whether or not you're outdoors doing something pretty intense, in the gym, going to a restaurant. You know, I put them through their paces, I do some interesting experiments with them, I use them with heavy kettlebells, etc., etc. So, yeah, I just want people to know that these aren't opinions or thoughts based on just unboxing it, having a look at it, giving a bit of feedback based on a few minutes of looking at it. These are sometimes after months of review of use, and sometimes after even years of use. For example, the G9 300 Mudman has been on my wrist on and off for, I believe it's almost 12 years now. So yeah, just want to put that out there. The findings of this are purely down to my personal tastes and experiences. Everyone's different, and I totally respect that. Morning guys, I hope you're really well. Welcome to the StormRider channel. As you know, this channel is mainly about keeping fit, keeping resilient, optimistic, positive, and talking about G-Shocks and how I use them on a day-to-day basis. Now, this video is going to be focusing on the 13 different G-Shocks that I own to date. I've been wearing G-Shocks since I was about 13 years old, I believe, and I'm now almost 40. So it's fair to say I know a fair bit about these watches. I wear them on a day-to-day basis. I rarely wear anything else. In fact, I can honestly say over the past, say, 8 years, I've barely worn anything that is not a G-Shock. So I've got some experience. I use them for a variety of things. I wear them with suits in work, I wear them in the gym, I wear them on kind of outdoor adventures, camping, things like that, and swimming. And I believe I've got a fairly good idea of what G-Shocks of the ones I own are best for certain situations and scenarios. So I'm going to start in no particular order with this grey GA 2110. So the reason why I've started with this, well, as I say, there's no particular order, but there is a reason. It's the weekend for me right now. And to be honest, I only wear this watch when I don't go out. I'll wear it in the house from time to time. And that's interesting because it says something quite special about this watch. I've generally got an attitude that I will wear G-Shocks at any situation. I won't protect them. I won't kind of treat them with, I'm not overly cautious with them. The thing about this watch is that A, it's very rare, and if you've seen my recent video on these, I think it's about 3 or 4 videos ago, I mentioned that I believe this is discontinued. The last time I went on the Casio G-Shock site, it said basically that it's no longer in production, and this only came out a matter of months ago. Now, that surprises me. I think it's going to be a highly popular model, or it would have been a highly popular model if there was more available. I don't know, maybe there'll be a change in heart and Casio will release more, although it doesn't look like that. This is one of the prettiest G-Shocks I've ever owned. You will know from previous videos, if you watch them, that I love the GA 2100 or 2110, as the new earth tone models are called, for a couple of reasons. One is that they're incredibly thin. They sit on your wrist so nicely, comfortably. They're carbon core, which means basically it's got this incredibly resilient and strong inner structure, which means that although it's light and thin, it's still got this incredibly strong protection for the functions, for the insides of the watch. Now, in terms of functionality of the watch, yes, it's not going to knock anything off the charts in terms of what it can offer. It isn't solar. It's got a battery in there, which will last a number of years, but still, it's not solar. I would love to see one of these in solar in the future. Who knows? Maybe it will happen. It has a marker on the side here which says what day of the week it is. It's got world time, it's got your stopwatch, it's got the countdown timer, things like that. All this stuff that on a day-to-day basis you'd need from a watch. It serves the purpose for me day in, day out. I now own, let me just double check, 5 GA 2100s or 2110s. That's how much I love these watches. And the grey one for me is the real, I think, jewel in the crown, I've got to say, simply because it's just such a cool color. It looks very, very nice with smart casual, or of course you could take it out, use it in the gym or going for a run, and there'd be no issues there because it's so strong. However, with this watch, because of its rarity, I won't be doing that. So in terms of the amount of wrist time this gets, it's very minimal, but there's a reason for that. It's rare, I love it, and I don't think it's going to be very easy to get my hands on one of these in the future. On to the next watch. Okay, here is a rather unusual piece, and it's a bit of a Frankenstein. It's something that I put together myself from a couple of different watches. It's the Rangeman. It's the GW9400, and I'm just going to show you up close. It has a negative display, and it is encased in a love the sea and the earth type strap and bezel. This is carbon fiber. It's got this lovely soft but incredibly strong carbon fiber band, which I wanted. I built this off the back of a triple black Rangeman, simply because I wanted something different. I really loved the color of this, and I thought, you know what, this watch, the Love the Sea and the Earth, only came out in a positive display, as I seem to recall. So I thought, you know what, I'll make myself a unique G-Shock. I'll make a negative version of that. There's a video which I've made previously about this watch. In fact, there's a video where it shows me putting it together. People have commented time and time again, when are you going to get the screws in on the bezel? So apparently I can just swap out the screws on the GA20 from the blackout, and I just haven't got around to that yet, but I know I should, because it'll look a lot better when those screws are in. So apologies to all those people who keep on reminding me about that. I've honestly just been so busy, it's not been on my priority list. The Rangeman is a watch that I regularly advise to people to consider. When someone messages and said, should I get the GWG-1000 Mudmaster or should I get the GGB-100 Mudmaster? I say, well, you know, they're very different watches. The Mudmaster, the GWG-1000 is the real tank, and then the GGB-100 is the kind of, it has more functions. It's got the, but doesn't have solar. But I also say, if you're just thinking about between those two, also consider this, because it's a slightly lighter, slightly cheaper, depending on what you're comparing it to, model. But it has incredible functions. It's got your barometer, your compass, your temperature sensor. It is incredibly kind of, let's say it's low key. It's got the sun up, sun down, various other functions which people don't realize, I think. It's incredibly capable, loads of functions, and I think it just looks cool on the wrist, and it doesn't shout out too much, depending on what color you have, of course. But it just basically has a very understated presence. I love it, and in terms of wrist time, I'd say this gets some of the highest wrist time when I'm riding my bike, because as I've said in the past, when I'm riding my bike, I do have a Garmin computer on the bike, but sometimes these things can run out. G-Shocks, particularly solar G-Shocks like this, obviously won't run out of battery. and it's highly reliable, and it's got the compass set if I was to ever get lost, if my phone got broken or I had a crash, something like that. I could rely on this to some degree to make sure I know where I'm going. Love this watch. One of the ones I regularly recommend people to consider. What's next? Okay. This I haven't talked around about a lot. It's the G7900. It's the A version. I honestly bought this because I thought it looked incredibly cool. It's a maritime sea-based watch. What I mean by that is it's designed for sea rescue, people who spend a lot of time in boats. It has an incredible amount of functionality, which I'll be honest, I still haven't got around to fully understand. I don't spend a lot of time on boats myself. I do spend a bit, but I'm certainly not someone who I'd call an expert in that area. And therefore, I don't have to rely on understanding the tides and the time of tides and things like that. That is where this comes in. It's got an incredible computer in there which can tell people how the tides are looking, and various other seafaring information. It isn't too big. It is bigger than something like the GA2100. It's got these special wings on it here, which means it sits incredibly comfortably on the arm. Now, the only reason why I imagine that it has those is because when you are, say, in a boat, I know firsthand, in a smaller boat on the sea a lot, this thing, you'll get smashed around on the sea a lot, going over waves, hitting waves repeatedly, and you basically don't want things knocking around and potentially, hurting or bruising your arm. So this sits incredibly flush, very comfortably, and is highly, I guess it's highly unique in the G-Shock range. In fact, just because it has all these different, and this different information about the tides and things like that. In terms of how much wrist time this gets, honestly, very little. I've taken it out on boats twice since I've owned it. I think I've had it for about a year and a half. I haven't done a lot of seafaring in that time for obvious reasons, and basically for that reason I haven't used it much, but I still wanted to spend a bit of time at some point learning more about it. It's pretty complex to set this thing up, or at least get the most out of it, and one day I will get around to that. Okay, what's next? Look at this. What an intriguing watch. What a design. It's the GA2000, but it's a special edition, the Bhutan edition, and I saw it at a very good price in a Casio dealership, and I just had to take it. I honestly have never worn this watch. It's sat in its box. It's yes, it's been on my wrist a couple of times, and I'll put it on my wrist now. The GA2000 is an intriguing model for me. I don't own a non-limited edition or special edition watch of the GA2000, but I really do like the look. It's unusual. It's highly comfortable. Like, actually one of the most comfortable watches that I own, one of the most comfortable G-Shocks that I own. It sits very, very, let's say, understated, despite being quite a dramatic face. It actually, you could wear this and it wouldn't cause too much, grab too much attention, I don't think. However, when you start looking up close at these wonderful patterns and colors, you start to realize it really is something special. Now, the functionality of this watch is your kind of standard. It's got your stopwatch, alarm, timer, world time, things like that. It's got a couple of different strap options that come with it as this special edition. It's got this resin strap plus a material like cotton strap, which is inspired, I believe, by the Bhutan flag. I love the back of these carbon cores. I don't know if you can see this, but it's incredibly, let me just get that in focus. You can see, and like you'll see shortly in the GB100 Mudmaster, it's just got this very smooth back plate which just sits on the wrist so nicely. Honestly, this will be going back in the box. It's not something that I personally feel I want to wear on a daily basis. I just find it interesting, and it will either be at some point given to someone as a gift who's really into it, or it'll just stay there, maybe an investment piece, and one day I'll end up selling it. It may or may not be worth more money than I bought it for, but it'll definitely stay in good condition. So as I say, the amount of wrist time on this, 0, apart from for the likes of this kind of video. What's next? Okay, another GA 2100. This is quite a well-covered watch on this channel. I wear this definitely every week. It's been, I mean, if I just put it up close there to the camera, you might be able to see. No, you can't really see, but basically, this is well worn. It's got some true, let's say, not battle scars because it's not really damaged, but it's got the classic hallmarks of a watch that's worn on a regular basis. You can see on the strap that it's got the buckle marks. I've already mentioned the GA2110 and why I love it so much. The GA2110 is essentially the same watch, just has a few different colorways, and also the buckle on the GA2110 isn't metal. It matches the actual color. I like this a lot on the GA2110 compared to the metal of the GA2100, although it's not a massive deal for me, to be totally honest with you. This is the triple black. This certainly was a very rare watch. I believe some more have been released, but for a good year or so, people were fighting over these in the kind of aftermarket, eBays and things like that, and paying pretty crazy prices for them. I think I paid $70, $80 for this in Bangkok, and from a Casio store in Bangkok, and it was at the time it just came out. I didn't even know what I was getting myself into. It was surprising for me that it was this shape. They call it themselves on the Casio website, the CASIO. It's very subtle. It does say G-Shock across the top here, but it hasn't got the writing actually embellished by any colors. It's got the negative display. A lot of people are saying it's not their cup of tea because it's not too easy to read on the digital cluster there. Personally, I find it absolutely fine. I don't find a problem with the negative display at all. I just love, again, as I've already said, I love the comfort factor of wearing these slimline, one of the slimmest, if not the slimmest G-Shock on the market. Of course, there is now the GA2100 Mini that's just come out over the past month, I believe. I haven't seen one in the flesh. I believe it's scaled down probably about, maybe it's like a half an inch smaller. I need to get the exact dimensions, but I can imagine that's also going to be really pleasing for people with smaller wrists. It's just a classic watch. This took the market by storm when it first came out, and I think it's still incredibly in demand. I can't give it enough praise. The amount of wrist time this gets, as I say, is at least every week, 3 or 4 days, and it's my go-to model on any smart casual outing. However, this came into my life about a month ago. You've already seen a video or two about it. It's the GA2110, the SU, and I just couldn't resist these colors. It's pretty in your face. It's pretty bold. I never thought, and I've said this a few times in comments and things, I've never thought I'd be purchasing a yellow watch. However, there's something about this that just works. I think it just works so well with the black bezel, and then the yellow on top of the black bezel, the fact that it's got that negative display, the beautiful bold illuminated hands, the highlighted accent on the weekday indicator, and yeah, I can I can get away with wearing this. I never thought I'd hear myself saying that, but I like it. I wear it a lot now. It's the only thing that's really taken over the triple black GA2100 in terms of taking it out. Not for work, but for smart casual outings. This will come out quite regularly now. Amount of wrist time for this, I'd say on average once or twice a week. Okay, what's up next? Let's get on to the metal square. GMW B5000. This is something which was actually one of the first videos I put on the channel about this watch. I've always loved the G-Shock squares, the classics, you know, just with the resin bezel, the ones that have been out since the 80s, I believe. Although ironically, I don't own one. I've only got the metal one. The reason for that is because I was going to buy one with the resin bezel, and then this came out and I thought, you know what? It's got a slightly more refined edge to it than the resin version. Therefore, I'd feel more, it would feel more fitting with a suit. That means I can wear this in a work environment quite comfortably, and have all that great functionality. And then I realized something very special about it as well. Not only is it multi-band 6 and tough solar, it also has Bluetooth Connect, and this was the first watch I bought which had the G-Shock Connect app integrated. What that means is that you have this wonderful functionality which you can simply press the sync button, it syncs up to my phone, and immediately I have access to very easily, very simply change anything on here that I want, i.e. world time, what country I'm in, change the timer settings, things like that. For me, G-Shock Connect is a game changer. I never thought I'd use it so much, but it just makes, don't get me wrong, I enjoy the process of learning about my G-Shock watches and how to operate them and how to change them and adjust them. However, G-Shock Connect just makes it that much more easy, particularly if you're in a rush or can't be bothered to Google something that you can't get quickly remember. It is so easy with G-Shock Connect, and I highly recommend anyone who has a watch with the Bluetooth icon at the bottom, like this one has, to make sure that they download G-Shock Connect and utilize it, because it's phenomenal. This watch, to be honest, when I first got it, probably for about a year, it was my go-to piece when I was in work, when wearing a suit. It has only been superseded in that environment by the triple black GA2100. And I think the reason for that, to be honest with you, is the comfort factor. Now, I've mentioned before, I bought this watch. You have a couple of options. You can either buy it with the rubber strap, which I chose, or you can buy it with the metal bracelet. Now, I have pretty hairy wrists, as you can see. One of my pet hates is when you have the metal bracelet on any watch and you are basically finding that hairs get stuck in the bracelet and nipping. I just don't like that. So I removed that from my life by getting these rubber bands. The rubber band's very comfortable. It's absolutely fine. However, it just doesn't have that same, you know, it's got this back plate here. It doesn't have quite the same comfort factor as the GA2100. It's a very rigid watch, as you can imagine. It's metal all the way around, whereas the GA2100's got this much softer edge to the bezel and things. That means basically it just sits a bit more comfortably on your wrist, and I'm big into comfort on my watches. What can I say? It's just a factor which, personally, everyone's different. I rate highly. So if something's more comfortable, I'll tend to wear it more. Therefore, this has had a bit less wrist time in recent months. However, I still absolutely love it. I definitely wear it at least a few times a month in a smart environment with a suit or something like that. Particularly good when different world times. You want that at quick access because it's such a simple digital readout for those things. And yeah, it's a classic. I'll never get rid of this. Very, very happy I own it, and I'm sure I'll be relying on it a lot going into the future. Next up, okay, this is one of the watches that gets some of the most comments, airtime on any of my videos. It's the G-Shock GWG 1000 Mudmaster. Now, this is one of the top three. Let's just put it that way. It's a beast of a watch. I'm going to put it on my wrist so you can see how it sits. That is not a subtle watch in any way, shape or form. Let's see how it sits roughly compared to the Rangeman. You can see it's quite a bit bigger there. Let's see how it sits compared to the GA 2100. Massive difference. Now, part of the reason why is simply because it is made for very tough environments. It's, you know, it says it on the tin, doesn't it? It's the Mudmaster. It's designed just to put up with any kind of abuse it can get thrown at it. Everything from the strap to the bezel to the buttons to the way that you just see the actual design of the face works. It's just everything about it says strength, resilience. I'm going to put up with it. I did a video recently which a lot of people have seen, which I put this watch. It had 0 charge left in the battery, and it's tough solar. And I put the watch in the direct sunlight for a couple of hours. It got very hot. It hit about 50 degrees Celsius, and then the LCD screen blanked out. I thought I'd broken it. My heart sank, and I thought, oh wow, finally, after 7 years of ownership, I've killed the Mudmaster. Anyway, I took it indoors. As it cooled down, within about 30 seconds, the LCD screen came back to life, and the watch has been fine ever since. And if I just press this button here on the bottom left, you'll see that H there shows that it's now back up to high battery charge. So the battery's fine, the LCD screen's fine, the watch is operating perfectly well. You know, it's got one of my favorite functions, which is a compass on it. You press this button once and it'll give you your bearing via the second hand. Absolutely wonderful bit of kit. What can I say? Look, you're not going to wear it in an office. Some people might. You definitely can wear it with kind of more casual clothes. If you're out and about and you've got your jeans, your t-shirt, sneakers on, brilliant option. Brilliant option. Probably harder to carry off if you have very thin wrists, but you know, my 7.5-inch wrists, I personally think it works well. The amount of wrist time this gets in reality is about well, put it this way, anytime I'm doing anything where whatever's on my wrist might get knocked around. If I'm out going kayaking, if I'm rock climbing, if I'm throwing around weights and they might get knocked. This is the watch because it doesn't care. It just gets on with it. What can I say? Wonderful thing. It's got the desert. This is the desert camo special edition. I don't think it's produced anymore. It's very rare. The prices in the aftermarket are pretty ridiculous, and I'm very pleased I got it at retail price. I seem to recall I got it at a very low price when I bought it because there was a sale on. Off the top of my head, I probably paid about $350 for this. You can see them on eBay now for something like $1,000 plus. Wonderful. I'll never let this one go, and I'll always be using it in the right kind of situations. So I think at this point it makes sense to go from the GWG 1000 Mudmaster to the GGB 100 Mudmaster. This came out around about 1.5 years ago. Beautiful looking watch. tough as nails. It's got a completely different set of functions, to be honest. It's a very different watch now. I've said this more and more, time and time again. These two watches aren't really worthy of the same name. They're just so different. This is tough solar, this is not tough solar. This has crystal sapphire, this doesn't have crystal sapphire. Okay, this does have compass and this has a compass, and there's, you know, the temperature and the barometers and things are both on there. They're both tough as nails. However, there is quite a lot of differences between the two. Also, this has G-Shock Connect and this one does not. This is more your kind of hardcore agricultural, get out there, get stuff done watch. This is like that as well, but it's got a little bit more refinement about it, but doesn't have the luxury of tough solar. Look, I really enjoy this watch. It also has a step tracker, things like that. I don't personally use the step tracker that much at all. However, I'm sure some people would find it very useful. It's got a location indicator, so you can actually set a specific point when you're there via G-Shock Connect on your phone, and the second hand will then take you back there once you walk away from it, as if it's pointing you the way which to go. I think it's actually an incredibly smart idea, but the execution on it so far hasn't quite translated to be as useful as I thought it might be so far. I'm hoping that Casio refined that so it can be, you can predetermine a mark on your phone and say, take me to this location. Don't know if it's possible. I'm no expert when it comes to how these kind of things work, but that would be an absolute game changer for me if this watch could lead you via the second hand to anywhere you want, rather than just somewhere that you've already been. Let's see if that develops over time. The watch itself looks super cool, as I've already said. It's got this lovely carbon fiber pattern on the bezel. The strap itself is probably one of the areas where I'm just a bit less impressed, simply because it's a resin strap. If I had an option to pick up a carbon fiber one like I have on the Rangeman, for example, or the GPW 2000, I would get that. This just feels a little bit too plasticky for my liking, and it's not as super comfortable. However, saying that, overall it is a very comfortable watch on the wrist, and because it's got the carbon core guard on the back there, compared to the GA 2100, which is metal, it's much nicer for running in. I've done a field test of those two watches in the past. There's a video on it, and this is the one I recommend if you're going for a run out of the two, simply because it's a little bit more comfortable, doesn't bang around on the wrist so much, and it's significantly lighter than the GWG 1000 also. Solid watch. Actual wrist time in terms of recent months for me, not a lot, simply because I haven't been doing so much that requires it to be worn. I'd either be, if I'm doing something really tough, it's the GWG 1000, or the Rangeman, and this is what happens when you own, frankly, a lot of different watches. Some great watches simply don't get as much wrist time, and that's natural. It's not a result of the watch not being good or that I respect it. It's just that other watches take precedent for personal reasons. I do still highly recommend this, and I think it's a lot of watch for the money. It's not a particularly expensive watch, yeah, I just think it looks fantastic. Up next is another GA 2110. This is the other earth tone. Again, you can tell it's this earth tone. It's got the blue buckle on it rather than the metal of the GA 2100. This, for me, is a super cool colorway. I love it. It's blue with a kind of off gray, almost like a cream, but it's actually a gray. It's a light gray. It's got a negative digital cluster. It's got the accent, the same gray accent on the week timer. As I say, I just love these watches. It's something that, in terms of wrist time, hasn't had a huge amount, simply because, again, I've got a lot of watches, but look, it just looks awesome. It's refined, it's capable, it's cool. carbon core, super comfortable, and it's a rare colorway. I have put this away in the box for the time being, along with the grey one, and won't be wearing it much for the time being. Maybe it'll come out more in the future, but right now I am protecting these two, the grey and the blue, simply because they're very special, and I don't think they're going to be releasing any more of them. I could be proved wrong, but my intelligence suggests that that's the end of the line for these watches, and no more will be made. Let's see. Okay, up next is the GPW 2000. This is the Gravitymaster. This is one of the most impressive feats of engineering that I own, and I'm not just talking about watches. This thing is incredible. It is highly complex, highly tough, highly capable, very cool looking watch, which honestly can give you the right time in any scenario, pretty much wherever you are in the world. It can give you the right time via GPS, via the multiband 6, via syncing with your watch via Bluetooth, and via satellite. It's incredible. I mean, I can't think of anything else that could really claim to have such a capability in terms of an item of hardware you can put on your wrist. And what I mean is something with such capability, which is also so tough and resilient and solar powered completely. This is 100% solar powered. It can tell you your latitude, your longitude. It's got so much to it. It's got a flight log. It can track where you are on the globe and put like timestamps in your G-Shock connected app. It's got a carbon fiber, super comfortable strap. And that's what I was saying before about the GGB 100. You see this strap compared to this strap? There's a different level of comfort factor between the two. And this is where I'm a bit of as I've said already, comfort for me is a big factor, and this sits very comfortably, despite it being a huge watch. I mean, when it's on my wrist here, let's get it on there. It is pretty much the same, if not identical, kind of size to the GWG 1000. It's a beast, but it just has that extra comfort factor. It's not a cheap watch. I don't think they make it anymore. I think it's the last of a dying breed, because there's clearly so much design, research and development, investment gone into this. I seem to recall there's something like 8 different individual motors which power all the different dials within this watch. It's incredible. I mean, what else is there to say? I don't even understand everything that this watch is capable of, and I highly recommend anyone who's into the idea of this watch or owns it, please go on to a video by a great guy, goes by WatchUp69 on YouTube. He's put together, just over the past couple of days, a comprehensive video of how this works. It's the kind of watch that you need to spend some time to get your head around and understand if you own it. Otherwise, you're not going to get its full potential. It's highly complex. It doesn't have a digital display either, which means that anything you do, you have to be able to interpret the hands and the different dials and understand what it's telling you. If you actually look at the different markers on the face up close, it's somewhat overwhelming. You wouldn't know what it actually means unless you spent time studying it. So it's very important that anyone really does that. Thankfully, it does have the Bluetooth connectivity, and you can link it to G-Shock Connect app, which, as I've said already a few times, for me is a game changer. It means that you can, at a touch of a button, change this watch, understand what settings it's on, where it is location-wise, and that makes it a lot easier to manage and understand as a product. I'm very pleased it's got G-Shock connected app, but yeah, I adore this thing. I actually bought this secondhand, and I don't even have the box with it. I don't have the box, I don't have the instructions, I don't have the warranty. I don't care. This isn't something that I'm keeping to, you know, eventually sell one day. This is a piece of art. It's something that just makes me so proud to own. I'm passionate about it. It's just incredible. I can't use any more superlatives than that. Anyone who's lucky enough to own this knows exactly what I mean. I love this watch. Now, up next, the G9300 Mudman. Okay, so I think anyone who knows this channel knows that this is pretty much the watch that inspired me to start the channel. I am really sad to say that, as far as I know, Casio G-Shock have stopped making the G9300. I can't find it anywhere. I've asked a couple of dealers, and yeah, to their knowledge, this isn't being made anymore, and I can't believe it. This is just, honestly, if I had to choose the top 3 watches, which I'll put at the end of the video, it's such a difficult thing to do. However, if I have to choose the top 3 watches, this for sure has to go in there, because I've owned this watch now for 10 years. It's tough solar. Let's have a look at where the, if I can just, hopefully you can see that. You see that kind of staircase in the center, about here. You see the dark square is highlighted. That's the H. It's high. This is fully charged. It's 10 years old. It's fully charged. Look at the blood, sweat, and tears that's been accumulated within this watch over that 10-year period. I use this every single week for something, either in the gym, going for a run, going in the sea, going in a swimming pool. It's got a compass on it. You press this button on the side, and it gives you a digital readout on the compass. That's phenomenal. It's small, relatively small. Look how it sits on my wrist there. It's understated. Let's see how it compares size-wise to the GWG 1000. Quite a bit smaller, I'm sure you'll agree. It's incredibly comfortable. There's something about the material they used to make the bezel and the strap that is just very, very soft and comfortable. It just sits beautifully on my wrist. The strap itself has this pretty cool, I don't know if you can see the writing across where it says G-Shock resist, G-Shock resist on that side, and then G-Shock protection on that side. It's got the very nice Mudman emblem on it on the back. I've worn this so much that actually I'm quite proud to say it's kind of start to get a little bit worn maybe. But there's a mole holding a compass with a drill, and that's the Mudman emblem for this particular watch. The backlight, watch this. If I just, you know what, the backlight, it's too dark to really see it, so I'm not going to do that, but it's got this beautiful all-encompassing green glow that does the entire face of the watch, the compass, the moon phase indicator, the main digital cluster, and then the top right on the date and the day, and the power save and the auto light indicator. It all lights up. I'll put an image up or something to show you in this beautiful warm green tone, which is just great. At night it doesn't aggrieve your eyes. It's just, I don't know, I know I'm waffling now about this watch, but this is very special for me. Yeah, I can't believe they're not making them anymore. I need to get hold of at least one or two more before they become like hen's teeth, as we say in the UK. Okay, and then last but not least, another GA2100. The difference with this one is, you will notice, it's still got protection on the buckle. It's absolutely mint, it's perfect. If I compare it to this GA2100, it's rather different. This one's been worn hard, this one's been worn not at all. The simple reason for that is because it's such a special watch for me that I wanted a version I could wear and abuse, and over time would take some hits and take some damage, and then one that would not. And yeah, I think it's fair to say that that is a fair mark of what I class as a very special watch, if you feel the need to buy two of them because you know you're going to wear one so hard. Hope that makes sense. But yeah, this stays in its box with its tags and will do so for the foreseeable future. Maybe one day, if I ever decide to retire this one will come out, but we'll see. What can I say? I don't think I need to repeat myself. The GA2100, the GA2110 for me is just a wonderful piece of engineering and design. I love it. I've got 5 of them. The amount of wrist time this one gets is 0, because this one gets a lot of wrist time. Now, just a little bit of a backstory to my watch ownership. So I'm also going to just highlight that this is one of my first forays into, I guess, serious watch ownership. Was my Tag Heuer Carrera. I bought it when I first started working in the city in London back in the day, and this is a very, very pretty watch. I still love it to this day, and it fits on my wrist beautifully. It's just got that class about it. I've always loved the dial. I remember when it was when I first became aware of it, it was being promoted by, I think, the likes of Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio. It was just one of those watches where I saw it, I thought, you know what, one day I'll treat myself to one of those, and I did. It's just got such clean lines, wonderful, wonderful quality. However, the amount of wrist time this watch gets, 0. And I'll be honest with you, when I started getting into G-Shocks, and even more so than I had done before I wore this watch, and realized that there was the great variety of G-Shocks on offer, you start to realize it's not just these big, beastly, in your face, cumbersome watches that sit on your wrist and you could never wear with a suit. You start to realize that actually, when you start wearing things like the GA2100 or the metal square, you can have a refined piece that is a fraction of the cost of something like these classic watches, but needs 0 maintenance, is solar, doesn't need winding. There would be instances where sometimes I'd wake up after a weekend away, I'd be going to work, realize this has lost its it hadn't been wound, because it relies on the kinetic energy from wrist movement to wind it up via this mechanism in the back. For anyone that doesn't know, you can see it moving there. Now, a frustration, just a classical day-to-day frustration for me with the watch would be, I'd be walking down the street to work, look at my watch in that situation, see that it hadn't been charged because I hadn't been wearing it at the weekend. It had stopped keeping the time, and suddenly I didn't know what time it was unless I cross-checked with my phone or something. Now, I'm a very practical person. I don't like faffing around. I absolutely understand how much people will disagree with me on this. For me, it's all personal. For me, I don't like that. I want to know that my watch will tell me what time it is accurately all of the time. And yeah, sometimes this didn't for whatever reason. And it's got many other benefits, but from a pure practical perspective, it's the G-Shock that takes this any day of the week now. I'll keep hold of this watch. I think it'll be a hand-me-down to my children or grandchildren, something like this. But yeah, I don't wear it so much at all, to be honest. Okay, so here we come to the culmination of this video, and congratulations if you've bared with me throughout it. If you do, I think that shows you're a true G-Shock fanatic like myself. Of these 13 watches, which are the 3 that I can't live without, that I have to have week to week, i.e. of the 13, if I had to keep 3, which one would it be? I'm going to get them in my hand now. And this is kind of, I think it's quite controversial for some people, but you know, you have to be bold, you have to make decisions, you have to just commit to these things, and these are the 3 watches that I would keep if I could only keep 3 G-Shocks. The Blackout GA 2100 for wearing in smart casual environments, suits, work. It's just so comfortable, so practical, cool, pretty rare, always gets comments, people always asking what's that, people don't even know what it is, they don't know it's a G-Shock, and it's just cool. And I love all the colorways that I've got that exist on this as well. Then the GWG 1000, the Mudmaster. This is just the zombie apocalypse watch that will take you to hell and back, and thank you for it. It's just nothing will ever phase this watch. You'll never break it. It's solar, tough solar. It's got world time. This one in particular has twice been heated to above 50 degrees Celsius via my stupidity and has never complained. It charges phenomenally still, even though I've had it for 7 years. It's got this rarity value, which is the fact it's the desert camo strap as well, and it's just cool. That's the second one I'll always have with me. And then the third one is the G9300. Might be a surprise to some people. It's pretty, to some might think this is a pretty basic, old, non-impressive G-Shock. But to me, it's everything a G-Shock should be. It's got your compass, it's tough solar, it's incredibly strong. I've had it for 10 years, maybe more now, and I adore it. It's never put a foot wrong. It's still charging phenomenally. It's never once ran out of battery. I know that it's got these incredibly robust buttons on it, so stuff doesn't get stuck in there and risk damaging it. You can, I can't imagine a situation that would actually damage this watch. So yeah, there you have it, guys. I really appreciate you spending the time going through this with me. If you like the video, if you like the information, find it useful, please like and subscribe. There's a lot more where this came from, and I intend to keep the information coming because people clearly enjoy it. Take care. Hope you're feeling positive and resilient and optimistic. As always, thank you very much. Goodbye.